Good evening, Mr. Mitra, sir, and good
Good.
evening to joining us right now.
Wonderful. Welcome to this live Arty Hardy Talks. This is episode number 18. And I tell you, Sumit, that I started this in this pandemic, as lot many things have started in this pandemic. So I also one day was sitting and thinking that what way I can connect or I can bring more stories out of people who have lots to tell, whether they are introvert, extrovert, ambivalent, whatever they are, but what stories they have, because everybody has got a success story or other story or a dark stories also.
Yeah,
And so that was the whole idea, not only to bring in the creative forces or creative people around, but people from general walks of life. And trust me, I'm very happy that the way it has turned up, and I'm very excited to have the first author,
yeah,
and that too from Delhi. And in that, I'll say that your new novel, I did not reveal the name yet, and we are kind of doing a virtual launch today, in a way,
yeah.
kind of thing. So I welcome you to Arty Hearty Talks, episode number 18. And to all the viewers, we have Sumit K. Aggarwal, a dynamic personality, and what he writes, he is going to tell us about that. And Sumit, you are a Delhi boy, right?
Yes,
And yeah, and you stay at a cultural hub, right?
that's
Which is called Mandi House. You're staying. I'm not going to reveal your address and thing like that, but you are in
true.
that area
Yeah,
where we have got poetry, we have got theater, we have got music, we have got art, because that's the heart of Delhi. Like whosoever, you know, uh, like in Bollywood also, in serial also, in theater also, you will find everybody sitting there in some nook or the corner
it's true.
and having Shri Ram Center's famous bread pakoras or chai outside, patadi ki chai and everything. So, was that influence in your writing, or was that the creative bug bitten you when you saw so many creative energies around, or anything else?
That's one of the tragedies that I was living so close, like a stone's throw away from the College of Arts and from the National Institute of Drama. And all of the famous auditoriums of Delhi and the painting exhibition halls. But it struck me very late in life that I am actually surrounded by so much art. It was probably so close to me that every time I would go to school or I was going to college, just take the bus and be riding. My path would lead me away from these places somehow. But when I became more cognizant about these places around me, I started to meet more and more artists, more and more painters and theater personalities and all of that. So, I mean that to answer your question, so it couldn't become an influence for me because I started writing really early. The influence for me was a lot of reading that I was doing. I was deeply immersed in classics, reading classics, or your pulp fiction, all of those things. So the in fact, I would look at the Harry Potter series. I was a big fan of both J.K. Rowling and J.R.R. Tolkien, the writer of Lord of the Rings. I think as a 13, 14-year-old, that was a big inspiration. You could write epic, make something of them. So yeah,
So, we say that pen can change the world, right?
yeah,
You know, a word, a sentence can change the world because it has got that kind of power,
hmm,
right? So, my thing is, what you think about it, and did you experience it yourself? Like, what's your take on that?
um, I think it's there've been people, there've been readers who have contacted me saying that it's what I've written has certainly touched a chord. It had brought to light some aspects of their own life that they weren't looking at earlier. So only to the extent where the art was connecting to someone at a certain place, that's where I'm confident that uh, it would have had some effect, but not beyond that. I think sometimes I personally feel that we sometimes overestimate the impact that art can have, but it's always art plus its interpretation. It's always the impact happens only with art and the audience, and sometimes the audience also becomes a part of that, the narrative of the art, the experience of that art.
Wow. So wonderfully you said that. So this latest novel of yours, you took 8 or 9 years, right?
Yeah. So I it's
So was that a writer's block or something?
no, actually I was it's not an easy subject to write about. I think that is why primarily it took a lot of time. I started writing it about 3 or 4 months after the heinous incident in Delhi at the end of 2012, and because it was very disturbing for all of us, and so the writer in me wanted to, uh, writers write. There are some writers who have historically said in their essays also that they've been writing to kind of right a wrong, and it, it's a very bold statement, but it's actually a very soft and emotional statement, because there are certain events that have happened a certain way, and now what you want to do is you want to explore what else could have happened if not this, or if this has happened, what are the repercussions that could be explored or could be written about. So first of all, it was a very mature subject for me, and second of all, I think the initial drafts that I wrote were actually just me telling myself the story, and the story wasn't ready to be revealed to the outside world. After many feedback, like after many rounds of editing, of editorial, after many editorial rounds with different kind of people, I realized that okay, now is the time. Now I can really think about publishing it. So that process, the entire process of writing a 25,000 word draft, then rewriting the entire draft, and then rewriting it again, discarding it and rewriting it, that kind of takes a lot of so you need to also, for 6 months, you just put it away. You say, I'm not going to touch this story for another 6 months, and then you go back to it. It's kind of like maybe it happens with a painting or
Yeah.
a picture as well. Like once you're done with it, it's like, okay, it needs some air. It's not done yet. It needs some air.
What happens is a very interesting point you have taken here. What happens is like, um, uh, at certain times we feel that this artwork has, like, it has aged, it
Yeah.
has reached its maturity, and then it's lying somewhere because you cannot have a look at all the works which are around you. So probably you hang it somewhere around you so that you are in that zone, like you work on series. So particularly, and uh, during that time, that artwork starts calling you.
It does, yes.
It starts calling you that I am incomplete,
Yeah.
add some more elements into me, or I'm not the one which has to be, the presented the way it is right now. So it's one of the same things which you have said. I totally resonate with this thing of yours.
Yeah.
So tell me one thing, like, is it your independent publication, or you are like some publisher did that for you?
So that's also a very interesting story. So one thing with finding publishers in this, probably if they're helpful to them. The process of finding a publishing agent or a publisher is very backbreaking. I think if writing is challenging, then getting it published is even more challenging, because when you send a proposal to a publisher or an agent, you have to wait for 3 to 6 months for them to respond, and after that, if an agent takes your novel on, then they take another 6 to 12 months to get it placed with a publisher. That for them to take 3 to 6 to publish it, they assign it to some post, uh, all that shebang. So after waiting around for a very long time, with this story. This is this trilogy, the Delhi, the Metro trilogy, would be the least pitched work that I have. There are other works that I've pitched to other publishers, but the waiting period was so soul crushing that I thought that I'd publish it on my own.
So your first novel was with Rupa, right?
The first one was with Rupa, yes.
So tell me one thing, like the question comes from that only, and that is like when you are sending them the drafts and all that, do they poke their nose into it? Do they tell them to do these changes because audience might like that, and your heart is saying, no, I don't want to do it because this is what I am and this is what I like to portray. I don't want to change anything in this. But then, as you said, that it's very important to have a some producer also for you or a publisher for you, and then do you compromise on that? And if you do, then like what goes in your heart at that time? Because I mean, it's like you are writing, you are painting something which is truly coming out of you, and then otherwise, other thing to look at it that it's a commission work. You know, like you said that okay, this is the canvas and this is what I want particularly. So your own genuine, creative, honest truth is not out there.
Right.
So what do you have to say on that?
Well, it's a line comes to mind, which is that sculptures are set in stone, but books are written on word processor. So if you have to buy a sculpture, the work is already done. You can't chisel, like you can't make the nose any longer or the ears, like different. Once a sculptor's work is done, it is done. But with books, because it has to be consumed over a longer period of time, the first consumption of a book takes between 3 to 6 hours. So you have to take in the suggestions of somebody who's on the other side, who's reading it for the first time or the second time, and who says that okay, this line could change to make the readership or to make it more readable. It is totally your call. It's kind of it depends on whether it changes the meaning of something. If it changes the meaning of what you're trying to say, then of course you can have that. You can explain your point of view. It's a joint creative process. It's not. It's actually very soothing to talk to an editor who is telling you that you could change a word here, you could change a line there, you could break up this paragraph, or this part is not needed, and you're then also telling yourself whether you actually need that part or not. So it's very comforting to have someone else take charge and say that okay, let me help you cut out the boring bits, and then you're in.
So do you have more? You have interesting editors with you who listen to you, or you listen to them, or is it a tussle going on between the two?
I've had I've interacted with all sorts of editors, but but I was lucky enough to get the mind space and the time from a really professional and senior editor in the industry, and I was very happy with it. I think the reason I had the confidence to publish it was because I could get that senior publisher, the senior editor to edit it. Otherwise, I was very. Um, this is another thing. I had been looking for an editor. You can't publish a book without an editor. That's like you can probably put up a photograph in an exhibition without anybody else. You can edit it yourself, but books they need all sorts of care and love before they can be let out into the world.
So, like time has changed drastically, and if you just Google, or if you just go back, or go back in time and see, even like for that matter, I'll simply take one social media platform called Instagram. If you see the Instagram, you will find no dearth of authors there. That's one thing. Like it's filled up with that, like be it poems, be it like your shero shairi, be it short stories, and okay, individual level, I understand that okay, you have some talent, you wanted to showcase somewhere, you are doing that, right? Fair enough. Okay, that's a personal thing. People will say that okay, this guy has got this, and if he's having it, flaunting it, that's okay, that's justified.
Right.
But I have seen that I've seen these ads running. Probably they I come across at least 10 different kind of ads every day,
Right.
where they say that become a published author,
Yeah. Yeah.
become a published author.
It's a
And
yeah. Yeah.
then the point is that there are a lot of people who in this, so-called ready-made, ramyeon thing, that everything just add little hot water and our noodles are cooked. So do you
Yeah.
think that's kind of justified? Because when I'm listening to you, I can fathom that it's such a deep process, such a serious thing to do. And
Yeah.
there we have got this kind of a freebies which going on that become a published author. Probably we don't even know that, like the people we are dealing with, whether to trust them or not. Probably they are good. I'm not saying they are bad or something, but like how to establish that trust in them, because a lot of people are first time authors.
Yeah.
You must have also faced it, probably not that much, because I can feel that, like when the Rupa is there as a publisher, then it that they take care of certain things. They're like, quality check is there. They
Yeah.
will not, first of all, probably they will not publish anybody just like that. And second thing is, they have got a lot of stages where a lot of people are involved, a lot of quality checking going
Yes.
on and everything. But how
Right.
do you trust these mushroomed up publication houses and these so-called editors there? I mean, if I don't know. I'm a little skeptical on these things. When it comes to your musical things, like your classes going on, or you want to take up some courses, justified, fair enough. Like, it's not very expensive. You can do it. But what about um, these things like ready-made stuff going on there? What's your take on that?
I think okay. So there, I think these services cater to different kind of abilities. So an author is not a single thing; it's a spectrum. So you could be an author who only to see himself with a very reputed publishing house, and that's how they'll keep writing and they'll keep pitching. They'll never self-publish. And on the other end of the spectrum are people, authors who think that okay, this is what I've written. Let me just so it's more like I've made this painting or I've taken this photograph and now I've just put it up for sale. It doesn't need any editing. It's fine the way it is. I've created it and I have confidence in it. So this entire spectrum. These are the two ends of things. You can people go to and hire these are called there's a certain word for it. It's called vanity press in the UK. So you go to vanity press to you pay them some money. They'll do the editing work. They'll do all the difficult work of designing the cover or writing the blurb, making sure that it is published on Amazon and there's a paperback and there's a hardback and everything. Um, it makes the publishing process easy, but it's just that it's slightly expensive. For some people, it's not expensive. Some you can find a vanity press doing it for as little as 40,000 rupees, and can then go up to 1.5 or 2 lakh rupees also. But I feel it really depends on how serious you are about your content. If you're serious about your content and you feel that with a vanity press publisher you are getting a good editor who will do justice to your content and content is relevant, then by all means it is actually a great option. There are many authors who have become successful after being rejected from everywhere but going to a vanity press and saying please publish this for me. But we are living in the great age of democratization of content creation, whether it's writing, whether it's films, whether it's music. Uh, and I think it's actually quite good. The process where the artist or the creator is in full control of what they want to publish. They are bearing all of the risk and the reward of their creation. That path was not historically open to writers, but I think with Amazon KDP and the Vanity Press, I think it's a great option. Also provides a lot of livelihood to a lot of people. So, like if it's good content, it's being read by many people, then more people can share in the rewards.
But I have seen this, like, the competition, because they're like, one thing which I liked about is like, regional languages and Hindi also been taken in a very, very, lot of people who were not earlier, in this particular stride, they are also able to do that. That's a very beautiful thing which has happened. But I came across someone who said that in 15,000 bucks, I can publish a Hindi novel of yours, and ready to give 10 copies with the cover designing, editing, and all the promotions, posting it on, like making it available on Amazon and everything, just 15K.
Yeah.
Because of the cutthroat competition, we have it all around, and I was like, at that time, my feeling was like, so book publishing has become such a easy job, 15,000 rupees, and you're an author? No.
Yeah, it could even be cheaper than that. So the cost of publishing is actually zero, because if you're confident about your content, designing a cover page for a digital publication is actually quite easy. You can do it for yourself.
No, they are providing physical copies as well.
Yeah. So that's very easy. You can there's a website, Vistaprint. I think they also do your like batch printing. You tell them you want 10 copies of a book, they will do digital printing and bind it and provide it to you. So it's not difficult today. Like Thomas Press, what do you call the Thompson Press is available.
Yeah.
Thompson Press is available to everyone today. So it's not difficult. It just depends on creatively where in life you want to depend on a very professional senior person to get part of the job done. You want to get the entire part done by someone else, or you want to you want to do it all by yourself because you're so confident, or in my case, for example, it's more about finding the readership. The happiest thing for me would be to see the Metro trilogy read by as many people as possible. It is a passion project at the end of the day for me. So it's not really about,
so it's time that we have a look at your, a kind of unleash the magic out and let it come out of the box, and let's have a virtual launch of your trilogy, Metro trilogy, and let's see how it goes. And I would like to read some favorite part of yours out of that book. And so over to you. So we have got Sumit Kumar Aggarwal, and he is going to do a, though I should have, one copy, and but it's okay. I'll just clap for you here, and so you can just can kind of like unwrap it and show it to us that how it looks, and let's launch it. So viewers, we are launching Sumit K. Aggarwal's Metro Trilogy here on Arty Hardy Talks, episode number 18. I'm your host, Neeraj Mitra. And with me in conversation, a young, bright, shining author, and Sumit K. Aggarwal. So let's have it, Sumit.
Thank you so much. So it's a digital age, and in a bit to save paper, published it digitally only. So I'm going to be showing you the digital version through my Kindle app.
Sure.
It's actually a very, I find it a very useful thing to carry my books wherever I go and be able to read them when I want to. So the name of the book is Delhi 2019, Love in the Era of Crime. This is what the cover looks like.
Right. So the part of it, you can see it on the cover which I posted. It has got half cut, but that was deliberately done to keep some suspense. Yes. Wow. So how many pages are there, Sumit?
It's a short one. So it's about 85, 90 pages.
All right.
Not my first novel that I published with Rupa was also about a 99-100 page novel. This is actually could have been a bigger single novel, but I think the story was strong enough to break it up into 3 parts. So that's what it is. So the dedication of the book reads, and I'll complete the sentence also. For the hope that the best of the city lies within us, amongst us, and surrounds us still. So In a sense, the entire sentence becomes that I've written this story not in the hope, but for the hope, the existing hope that the best of the city lies within us, amongst us, and surrounds us still.
Wow.
Because after that kind of event that happened in Delhi, there were a lot of people's confidence would have shaken up about Delhi. Delhi got a lot of flack from people from other cities who were saying that this city is not safe, the city has this problem, that problem. But then we're all here. We're all still enjoying all the risks and rewards that come with living in the national capital. And we're trying to make the best of it. So there must be some good parts in all of us residents who've chosen to stay here despite of everything. I'll read a short blurb or the description of the novel before reading a part
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah.
This is about the novel. Three youngsters crave love in the big city. They believe they deserve their moment. They believe it is their night. But Delhi's crime scene has other plans. Kusum is a newly graduated lawyer from Varanasi, a civil service aspirant living solo. She has big plans for her date after the office party. While walking home with her boyfriend that night, something happens that changes the course of her life forever. And then there's the other character. Krishna suffers from PTSD and is longing for her merchant navy sailor fiance's return. Despite her fiance's warnings, she gets drunk and is driving her new SUV back home after a party. And then there's the final. Uh, the story is told from 3 points of view. So one, you see the entire story from Kusum's point of view, then you see from Krishna's point of view, and then you see it from Madan's point of view. Madan is a Madan is a closet gay college kid plagued by fear and loneliness. His politician father thinks he's like his other son. Madan himself wants to be more like his straight, sex-obsessed and knife-brandishing friends. So on yet another day in his life, he reluctantly agrees to go drinking with them. What could go wrong? The spine of the story is how do the lives of Madan, Krishna and Kusum collide? Based on the infamous gang rape case of 2012, Delhi 2019 Love in the Era of Crime is the first novella in a trilogy. The story starts a chain reaction with ripples that affect the fabric of Delhi's ethos for over a century. So in the next two installments, you'll see the impact of what could have happened or what really still can happen. The novella will soon be followed by two more, the narrative time spans of which cover roughly 3 to 6 decades into the future.
Wow. I can beautiful. And when are you planning to have the next ones? The next series, next part? Another
As
another 8 years?
So the next two parts should be, I mean, I wanted to launch all three simultaneously, but the editorial work on the second one is underway. Because my editor needs to find like a really that tranche of time where focused energy can be devoted to the book. And so I don't really want to put any months to it because in publishing
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
don't know. But I want it to be out as soon as possible because I'm really excited for people to read the next installment as well.
So let's listen to you what you have written here. I'm so excited.
Okay. So the excerpt I'm reading is one of my favorite because it really tells you, it begins to inform the reader of what kind of person the central character, the strongest character in the book is. What kind of what is the spiritual and religious background of her childhood that that has given her a certain kind of personality, that has given her a certain kind of strength. Just before the scene, just before this excerpt, she was weeping, looking at uh, looking at the spate of a river where people were polluting it, people were throwing in garbage and other things. So she was it to her eyes they were killing the river, and she becomes very emotional about it. She runs to her mother for consolation, and her mother says that everything happens for a reason. The Lord above takes care of everyone and everything, so you don't need to worry. But that was not something that could console her. So now she, at that time, she tried to figure out whether she's more like her mother or more like her father. Why is she not able to find consolation in those words? The river did not exist to be saved. It existed to flow for as long and as much as it could. Just like life wasn't lived to be saved or to save others or to change the world, life existed simply to experience the world and do what being in the world made her do. As she listened to her mother, her heart split into two. A part of her was stretching out towards the river to scream away anyone who dared to throw dirt in it, and the other part stayed put in the knowledge that she was too small and insignificant to do anything. Perhaps the answer was hidden in her father's mental composition. He seemed forever plagued with such dilemmas. For example, in his small grocery shop by the corner, he stocked and sold candy and bubblegum along with the usual household stuff. The candy and bubblegum company had designed and fabricated a new fancy signboard for his shop which carried the branding for their company. They also paid him rent for this kindness. In return, though all they wanted was that their bubblegum and candy be kept up front, in full naked display and in snatching distance of the little ones that accompanied the parents to the grocery store. Her father was happy that the signboard rent and the candy sales covered the financial gap, ensuring support for her studies and her boarding in and travel to New Delhi to attend a civil service exam study circle, and thereafter he would have enough savings to afford a Maruti car to give to her in-laws. But all through, he was aware that he would be playing a small, even if insignificant part in the bad eating habits, sugar addiction, and tooth decay of the entire mohalla. He would bring this up often during dinner. He would talk about this to his friends and even to his customers. He tried to do his best through full disclosure and sharing tips on using a datun, offering to pluck the neem sticks from the tree behind his house, and offering the Dabur Lal Dant Manjan to keep the teeth and gums healthy. Her father often expressed frustration that despite his own acknowledgement of his moral quandary and the corrective steps he is taking, mothers came two at a time to his shop to blame him for the children's eating habits and cavities. His warnings had amounted to nothing. And so in response, he says, they think I am the reason they are unable to discipline their boys. Boys are rascals. I'm glad we have you, Kusum.
Wow. You know, it's very interesting, and that you were reading it, and I was getting images here.
Yeah,
So that's the beauty of it. Very nice. Love it.
thank you.
So, like, I'm going to borrow my son's Kindle now. Though I'm not into books, too many books, but now today I'm gonna do that.
Excellent.
That's a Gandhi Jayanti gift to me.
Oh my God. Give to me as Thank you so much.
So, did you feel any change when you wrote the first novel? Like, uh, your office shocks? Because I think that was also based on your experiences, if I'm not mistaken, or stories which were told to you.
Yes, yes. I think a bit of both. Oh, you remember. I think we had a
Yeah, of
chat.
course. So just wanted to know, like, do you feel any shift in these, like in your thought process, or when you reflected back, did you feel that you have changed as an author? Like something more has triggered in you. You have become more of a sensitive writer, or if from the fun writer to, like any changes in you which you thought that, uh, you know, like I'm not asking for that who all liked it or didn't like it. It's up to you. Like self validation kind of thing. Like how do you feel about that?
So when I started writing, I think I was writing mostly something, I was writing satires and comedy. And now I feel that comedy is a small part of what I write. Humor is a way to tell something difficult to someone, now. And I didn't notice the shift while it was happening, but reading my work again after years, or reading my work after it comes from an editor with all the comments and markings about what I need to do, that really tells me that the writer has really changed from a certain type of writing, which was more inspired, to something which is more uh, which is more um, what the story needs. So earlier it would you could say that, okay, this style is reminiscent of this author or this style or this thing, but now it's more what the story needs. I mean, as I think one thing I wanted to mention earlier as well, how creations and artistic things come to artists, is that you wake up one morning. It's not even from a dream, but you wake up one morning and you have an idea. There's something that wants to be written, or whether it's a painting or a sculpture or a book or a scene. It just arrives, and then you just have to write it. And the scene gets written in the way that it wants to be written. Uh, and that's essentially what. So while you're in the process, you don't know that it's changing. But I think later, when you reflect back, you realize that, oh, this the kind of scenes that were coming to you earlier were vastly different with the kind of scenes or emotions that come to you now.
So when you sometimes, does it happen to you that when you are evolved in your work, that you start writing with one particular idea, but when you are writing it, it's constantly changing, and when you end it, it's not that what you wanted to do it,
Yeah.
and the result is entirely different. Like whole thing is entirely a different, turned out to be a different thing altogether. Does it happen in your writing as well, or you try to stick to what you really want to say? I mean, that way.
Well, both actually, because what you're trying to say also changes with when you start tackling the subject that you're writing about, and you do a lot of research. You do a lot of, because one thing is to write a particular scene or to create a character or to create a plot, but when you start to get into, so for the Metro trilogy, for instance, I had to look at. I went through a lot of Delhi's history, how many times it has been established rulers by different dynasties, and current shape and structure of different parts of the city. So, what did old Shahjahanabad look like? What does NDMC area look like on a map? What are the different uh, how is it transformed over the years? So when you get into that process, you figure out that what you're trying to write, or what you're writing about, is much larger than you are. And while you might have been underestimating some parts of the subject matter, you're unable to do it once you start to respect it a little bit more than you did earlier.
So
So,
did you go to these places around, because you are staying at a very beautiful place.
yeah.
I envy for that, but it's okay. And but do you travel a lot within the city to get the vibes of the city or mingle with people? Because I know you're a man of few words. You don't like to speak too much, and but like, did you interact with the city, history of the city, only on a virtual platform, or did you really go out and did some Reiki and got the vibes and the stories from people? How was
Yeah,
it?
more than the Reiki, I think as soon as I started reading about Delhi, it many things came as a revelation, and started looking at the different monuments very differently. Like Tughlaqabad Fort, it is a completely different dynasty from. If you look at Qutub Minar, that's from a different dynasty, different era. If you look at Red Fort, it's from a different dynasty, a different era. So the city is essentially a record of its, like, the heritage and culture and history. it's a living and breathing record of all these things. When you go to these places, you can't help but, you're in awe of the architecture or the imagination that went into, like, some ruler of some dynasty had a thought that, okay, we should have a fort here, and what that project must have looked like. That this is barren land, let's just build a huge
Yeah.
fort. Uh, I- and other than that, yes. So it mingling with, I mean, I've lived here all my life, so I think by default I've mingled mostly with Delhi walas. Uh, and I discovered that I had a certain love for old Delhi or Delhi 6 while writing the trilogy. So I think that was also wonderful.
I'll just share my anecdotes here. I used to take, do these art walks and the photography trails and all that in Old Delhi. And then it was a combination of art, food, and photography together, because somehow I knew in the by lanes what sells, and which Patli Gali will take you to which big gully, and from where to come out and where to have what, and that kind of thing. And and trust me, like I've seen a lot of people moving out from there and going out to different parts of the city.
Yeah.
I understand that, the kind of facilities they deserve or they should have, or what they want, is they are not there, because it's not there now, because of the whatsoever we say,
It
it's
has.
congestion or what. But the beauty is the aesthetics of that place, and still that love oozes out of those buildings and those homes. And it's really crazy. And when I see really literally people, when they say that they just want to leave Old Delhi and go, and I tell them like, no, not go. It has something. But like, we find it very fascinating from outside, but it has become so congested. People can't even park their cars, and they have to take rickshaw, and it's kind of unsafe. There's bit of that and bit of everything, but still, it's so slow paced. A month back I went to Balli Maran, and I took this rickshaw and I went live from there. And trust me, I lived eras there. Like from Galib's Haveli, I crossed that part,
Yeah.
and from one to, and then coming out to Nai Sadak and then to Chavdi and all that. It was a whole lot of trip, and that too I did it after 2 years or so. In pandemic, didn't go there, but I just thought that I'll document everything. That was the kind of thing going in my mind. And this guy was also a little adventurous. When he saw me filming, he also went, like, to offbeat areas, and where it was more colorful and all that. So truly, I mean, silently, if you go there, that place, that area never sleeps. At night also, if you go, it's beaming with energy, and it's crazy at that time. So I can really understand that when you say that, Old Delhi, what stories you are getting, what inspirations you are getting, and what energy you're getting from there. I
Yeah.
can truly understand that. If you
Yeah.
have to share anything of Old Delhi, please do. It'll be fun.
I mean, it's nothing specific comes to mind. It's just that I've seen the place transform quite a bit its from whatever little I've seen. I'm not old enough to say that when I was a kid it was like this, and now I'm grown up, so it's like this. But uh, seeing metro stations in Old Delhi and seeing e-rickshaws and intermingling with the odd masjid here and there, or the odd, like, um, thele walas and, redi walas there. So it's a very different kind of mix of things. The experience there is sheer cacophony, and it's yeah. I don't think earlier it was. I think the congestion part, the part where it has now been inhabited by so many people. I think the per square inch density of population must be really, like, huge. Yeah, but other than that, I still feel that somewhere in my heart that Old Delhi might still surprise us in the future. Just like now, you see what you never thought possible, that there would be metro stations in the middle of like two or three metro
Yeah,
stations, might still surprise us in the future.
yeah, maybe hyperlooping happening there in Chavdi Bazaar.
Hyperloop, and that's the dream.
You, you don't know. You don't know. You never know what's gonna happen. So, Sumit, let's talk about your little bit of your sense of humor in your office shocks. And if you have, do you got that physically published, right? You have some copies
Yeah,
lying around, so we can have a look at that. And so this is office shocks. It was, I think, in 2013 or 14, right? If I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong with the year.
2011.
2011, yeah, and Office
2011.
Shocks and 2011. So, so let's talk a little bit about that. It'll be fun to see the different writer with a different writing style,
Yeah.
young Sumit and mature Sumit, and so let's hear that.
So, this, if I read out portions from this book, it'll be a time machine. I'll be taking you 10 years back, or even more. Um, the line that I've got, the line that got me the most number of compliments was this. It's right in the beginning of the book. It's more like a preface or this thing. Roses were certainly not my thing. I was glad that they weren't there. Still, the bouquet looked nice and fresh. It had countless of those expensive and pompous flowers that have no fragrance, but are beheld as beautiful because everybody knows how much money has been paid for them.
Cool. So, like, what was the high point when the first copy came in your hand, and whom you dedicated that, whom you gifted the first copy? What was the experience? So
Uh,
just
right. So I think I had the initial proofs were. I really don't. Uh, I think it was just mind-numbing excitement. It was like it's so hard to recall right now what exactly I did afterwards, because I remember the moment the proofs were sent to me. So I opened the envelope. There were three or four copies for me to read and to tell them that this is okay to go into the final print. So I consider those as my first copies. And so it was, at one point it felt very normal because I was getting a book to read and I had been reading so many books till then. So it's like, yeah, it's another book. I have to read it. I have to provide. Later on, it hit me that it's actually my book, and putting it on my bookshelf was very weird for me.
it's like hanging your own painting in your own drawing room.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like, wait a minute, that's my name on the shelf.
So,
Um,
did you gift it to your mom, the first copy?
Gifted to, I think the first copy I just kept at home for anybody to come and read. So
Okay,
it was just there for like for the family.
great. And so, are you a full-time writer, or what are the other things, other interests you have? Because um, I'm sure that coming from a business family, it's not easy to remain creative
Yeah.
for a long time, but you sustain. Hats off to you, kudos to you. And because they have certain kind of expectations from you, certain legacies to be taken care of, certain parameters to be, you know, to be taken care of in that sense. So,
Yeah.
um, to quench your creative thirst, you write. Yeah, you're not. That's fine. You write for your pleasure.
Yeah.
But what about the other hard reality of your life, where you have to make and meats or the bread and butter or the high-end cuisines and all that? So, what exactly you do besides writing?
Right. So I think first of all, I must say that got very lucky as far as being supported through my writing is concerned. I think my parents were always very supportive of my creative flair. In fact, mid-career, I wanted to get an MA from University of London, and they were really supportive about that as well. So I have a mid-career 2-year MA where I spent 2 years in London just learning how to write, and I wrote a novel there as well. That novel I'm hoping I can also publish soon. That's a big one. But yeah, I think during the course of writing, so what happens is that you don't become a full-time writer in the beginning. It's only the audience that can make you a full-time writer.
Wow.
It's true. So anybody who's writing their first book and they publish it and becomes a hit, something that happened with, let's say, many other like many famous authors in India right now or world over. Uh, the the moment their readership increased a certain threshold, they could become full-time, right? That's also something. But even then, there are people who say that, okay, they still can't do full-time writing because full-time writing is very difficult to justify to yourself depending on what motivates you in life. So, for instance, I'm motivated by helping people, which I discovered when I was uh, coaching graduates and undergraduates and graduates in London as a part-time job, and discovered that I really loved because it becomes very specific. So you can say that you're a philanthropist, you like to help people, you're into charity, but no, none of that. So you could have a separate thing where you say that you like to help people on a one-to-one basis, and that's what I discovered that I like. Uh, Writing books does not allow you that kind of a thing because you're writing for it's mass media. So you create a product and it's consumed by hundreds, thousands of people. But with coaching, with consulting, falling. So that's what luckily for me, that fortunately that's what occupies the other half. That's helping businesses, helping people figure out what's their core competence, what is their vision for their life, what is the mission for their life. It applies to both if you're an organization or an individual. Um, and you spoke about how great things have come out of the COVID lockdown. So two things came out for me. One was that I could give a lot more time to editing my book, and so I could speed up the publishing process. And the other was that I launched my own consulting company called Growth Coursing, where the whole mission is to help individuals and organizations find their inner drive. Like, what is your core competence? Based on your core competence and your vision and mission, what do you do in the next 3 to 6 months to improve your existence, or over the next 3 to 5 years then to improve your existence? I think that's what really helps me wake up excited in the morning.
So this program is for the young adults as well, or it's for 18 plus program?
It's 18 plus right now. It's between the age group of 18 to 35 or 40, because that's where largely I've seen like most people are confused about where they should be. They have so many talents, like, but how do you combine those talents and make it into an occupation or a profession, or how to determine whether the talent you have is worth becoming a profession or not. Same applies for,
Basically, you're
yeah,
basically you're nurturing life, different lives. Beautiful. This is.
applies to businesses as well, where they like, we have so many products, we have so many good people on board now. How do we use their skills to reach somewhere?
So you can promote your brand here. You can tell them how to reach to you, and
Sure. Thanks for the nudge.
so they go to your website. You have a website
I
called
Yeah,
Coursering.com.
www.growthcoursing.com, or the easiest way to reach me would be to follow me on Instagram. It's Instagram/growthcoursing.
So did you, when you nurture these people, when you give them a little light, show them,
Yeah.
what they have within them, and you give them a push. So, any memorable event where somebody who has enlightened and has come back to you and said that, yeah, man, you are the one who changed me. You are the one who showed me. And you are the one who made me successful, or I am what I am today because of you.
Yeah.
So is there any interesting incident in
Well,
that regard?
the there's a roundabout way I'm going to answer that question. So the thing is that after I used to believe in life-changing events earlier, but not so much now. After getting in touch with behavioral science, I now understand that human beings tend to overestimate the effect of single event, of one event in their life, and they underestimate the power of everyday habits. So what I when somebody there has been instances where people have come back and told me that they have now gotten a really good clarity about their life. So because so many of them were already doing so well in life, but they were feeling, because they didn't know what motivated them, they would feel discouraged about, like, not confident that where they're headed in life is actually good, because compared to what the society told them, that let's say somebody was really happy in marketing, but the societal thing in his head was, I need to get into investment banking. So just helping that person get eased into the thing that, your core competence is what you're doing right now. So just stay put, just fight through for some more time, and you'll be on a much better footing. uh, those kind of things really helped people too, and they came back and said that, okay, we needed that kind of a, you know right whisper. We are all Most of these people are already on the verge of something great, because going to a coach or a consultant is a very brave step. So they already are exhibiting the trait where they want to go out into the universe and get what they deserve. So I always tell them that what the conversations we have are nothing. It's what you do on a daily basis in your life after the conversation that is going to make all the difference.
So when was this inner call struck you that you have to be in this particular, like to help people grow in their life?
Yeah,
So how did you end up, like, was there any particular point, trigger point, or any incident like that where you thought that, no, now I'll be in this because I have that capability
yeah.
and I see the potential in me? When was it and what was it?
Well, I think I first put myself through my own consulting process, and I figured that there are things that I can, there are skills and competencies that I can combine to help people. And so if I could do that with me, and then I tried it out with other people, I probably went through, I think, 50 or 60 people, and they were really grateful for the experience of it. Because if whether you read Ray Dalio, or you read Scott Adams, or you read any of the current favorite sort of authors, they'll all tell you that self-knowledge is the beginning of greatness in your life, or the feeling of greatness. So if you can get people, and even businesses like large organizations to or small organizations, to understand who they are, what makes them who they are, then they become confident. It really helps them. So I figured that if I could do that to myself on a very small scale, then it's something that I could apply to people at a small scale, and also at a large scale.
Wow. Any Now it's like, it's interesting because a lot of people, they, I mean, I interact with consultants and all that, and I realize it's a very, there are no feelings attached. If you want to do something, it's done. You're not emotionally attached to those people. But I feel that when you are um, guiding somebody, when you are in touch with somebody, when you are, like internal things which are shared with you, then you get connected with them. You get, emotionally attached to them.
That's true.
So I mean, I this is my experience also, because it happens, because when I take these workshop mentorship programs, or when I teach young kids, or when I teach underprivileged or the needy ones, or like I've also started getting these calls where people like to get associated, or they want me to guide them on their career or otherwise and otherwise. So for me, as a person, I kind of like, I take it as a responsibility of mine, that okay, now God has given me, or maybe that's a call which has been, or that's a shower blessing which has showered on me, that okay, somebody is thinking that I am. So I take it very personally, in a very this thing, that no, now this person is my responsibility. This mission is mine now. Like it's too personal to me. So that sense of attachment is also there. But then I see a lot of people, they take it, yeah, okay, this is how it is. Cut, 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 cut. These are the points. This is like, you fill this form. These are your strength core areas. This is like that. There are certain tests which you do. They analyze it. They tell you, okay, this is good. This is your strength. This is your weakness. You work on this. You try and do this, and do some part of it. But then what I find it little, I will not say I find it little fake, but I find it little, I mean, how can you not be attached with that life which has kind of opened up in front of you, with the weaknesses, with the strength, and with everything? And then other factor which kind of disheartens me is that you are giving 100% to those people, and then suddenly when they get 10% of the success, the 10% or 15% of what was missing in their life, they suddenly change. They suddenly get into that mode that, okay, now I know where to go. Like, so then you, like, as a person, I step back, and then I say, like, come on, man, you don't deserve this. Like, so I don't know, it's a very different kind of conflict which goes on, but I have experienced it.
Right.
So I feel that it's not easy to give in life, and it's equally difficult to receive it also.
Right.
So did you experience anything like that? For me, it's a personal bonding, personal attachment with that person, be it of any age, any field. I get attached to that person. I feel that, okay, that person has given me his life to design. It's like that kind of, like, it's a campaign for me, and I get attached to it. Does it happen to you also?
I think I have it does happen. You can't avoid it, because when you're working with someone so closely and they're describing their problems, it could be financial problem, or it could be just a confusion, a deep-seated confusion. But I think the challenge for the mentor is that the mentor cannot show that emotion at that stage, because you have a responsibility, which it's like the doctor can't really start to, if doctors start to empathize with they start feeling the pain of the patient, how will they operate, right? So if you're mentoring someone, you can be emotionally attached to them, but you can't show that you're emotionally attached to them.
No, that I understand. But do you get emotionally attached? Because I do.
Yeah, but you can't really, because they're coming to you for some kind of advice or some kind of guidance. But that guidance cannot be preceded or succeeded by you telling them or you exhibiting emotions to them. That's what I feel as a mentor-mentee relation within a mentor-mentee relationship. Of course, the I think all emotions are kind of welcome. They're all good. But if the mentor gets mawkish, or if the mentor himself or herself tends to be, I mean, it's actually very intense, the interaction that happens between whether an organ or a consultant, or an individual or a consultant. Because after that, the mentor himself or herself, they also need to go to someone to talk about what has just happened, like what they're going through, not about the consultation, but what they're feeling at that point, whether they're feeling drained, whether they're feeling ecstasy, or whether they're feeling sadness, or so. But those emotions are not for the mentee, because that person should feel that you're in control. I'm reading this really amazing book called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. And the opening 3 chapters are just about this, that
Okay.
a consultant or a mentor or a coach, they can't really be, they can either be emotional or help someone. They can't do both at the same time.
All right. So that's interesting actually. But let's see. I think I love being emotional, so I'll remain that.
Yeah.
So any message for young authors or enterprising people, or any message from your side? You're young enough to give any message to young people, but still, it's always nice to hear wise words.
I'll just give my only advice is something that also is difficult for me to take. It's difficult for me to take my own advice. It's uh, uh, think less and do more. I think doing things, especially for creative people, I think building things, writing things, creating things is much more important than thinking about how good or bad it is going to be. Don't censor yourself, just let it flow. Something come out of the quantity that you generate. But if you're a quality person, then you will exhibit the traits of a quality person, that you can't help it. But try to just get it out, get the art piece, get it out of your system as soon as possible. If a poem has arrived, then let the poem flow. Yeah.
Very, very well said. Don't keep inside, just
Yeah.
sail, just have everything out and just do it.
Yeah.
It's like that. So this really, I mean, I'm so happy that, we connected. We are here together on this live, and what wonderful session, and time flew, and I'm happy. I'm feeling so good. I can't tell you. So
It's
thank you for being here.
very surreal. I think with the we've played basketball together as well when I was there,
Yeah.
and it's so surreal that we are at that time. We had no idea that something like Instagram would exist. There would be talk shows. I would be writing, and
But
it is just
that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of life. So embrace it the way it's coming and just sail through. You never know which shores you're gonna touch.
that's
So I'm
true.
so happy that we are connected. I'm so happy that you're in my life in Hearty Hearty Talks. And God bless you. Keep writing, waiting for many, many more, series from you, many more novels from you, and rise and shine. So my blessings, my wishes, my love to you, and God bless you. Stay blessed.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
me.
so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Stay blessed. Bye.